Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Mindset Monday. Get your mind right. It's Trey Griggs here with Beta Consulting Group. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership powered by Beta Consulting Group. Learn more about how we can look out for you as a sales and marketing strategist. Visit betaconsultinggroup.com to check out all of our services and let us know how we can help you out. It's going to be a great week this week. I'm so excited. We got 5 incredible shows, 5 incredible guests this week. It's going to be really exciting. Today's guest is the chairman of the board of the Transportation Intermediaries Association and a good friend of mine who started his own company. We're going to talk to Mike Riccio in just a little bit, bring him on the show. Tomorrow we got Kevin Coombs, Vice President of Sales at Green Screens. This guy is just young and energetic and incredible ideas and great sales and a great leader. On Wednesday, we got the king of the Dad Jokes game, TJ Knudsen, Director of Sales and Operations over at Hoosier Logistics. Talk a little about sales, about leadership, and it's going to be awesome to have him on the show. Thursday, this guy will make you run through a wall. It'll be like a halftime speech, the whole show. So make sure you join us on Thursday for Brent Orsuga, my good friend down in Phoenix, Arizona, founder of Pinnacle Growth Advisors. And then I'm super excited about Friday's episode 19 with Sarah Howes. She's the Senior Vice President of Product at Diesel Laptops. And she's going to talk to us about the relationship between product and sales and marketing, which is obviously a really critical piece to your company and to growth. And so going to be an awesome week of shows. Make sure you come back every day, 10:30 a.m. Central, to catch half hour of powerful content from some really incredible people. And with all that said, let's go ahead and bring on today's guest. I'm so excited that he joined me. He recently kind of did what I did. He started his own sales and consulting firm, business strategy consulting called More Than Miles Consulting. He's been in the logistics industry for a long time. And as I said, he's currently the chairman of the board of the Transportation Intermediaries Association. Please welcome to the show, my good friend, Mike Riccio. Mike, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Trey? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. Coming to us with a powerful Monday. Yeah, very excited.
Looks like you got quite a week, quite a powerful group of guests this week. So I'll do my best to uphold my end of the bargain.
Yeah, you're leading off. You're hitting lead off this week. So, and I put you there on purpose. I have a feeling you're going to get on base and score some runs. So it's awesome. No, it's been great. How was your weekend? Did you watch some of the March Madness games?
You know, I got a brand new TV in this basement that we just finished off, and I didn't watch one game.
Oh, man.
We had some issues going on, some other things going on, some family responsibilities, and I didn't watch one game, which really bummed me out because I have this nice, beautiful TV, and I've yet to turn it on. So I will definitely do that as it picks back up this week.
Well, if you're like me, your bracket was busted. There were some incredible storylines, some awesome upsets. And, I'm a former college basketball player. You would think I would know how to pick games. I never pick good games. In fact, in the past years, I've studied the teams and I've made these picks and I've never won the bracket. So this year I did something different. I just clicked the autofill, the random historical autofill, just to let the computer decide for me. Still didn't work. I'm still losing to my daughters. My daughter Hannah is winning. She's got 3 or all 4 of her Final Four teams are still in, which is crazy. So it doesn't matter what I do, whether it's computer generated or if I take the time to pick them. I can't pick the games.
Don't tell me she had St. Peter's.
She did not. That's the one she didn't have. She didn't have St. Peter's, but she had. She had. I can't even think of who. But she had Tennessee going down. So like that. She had some picks that I was like, dang. Good for you, but she's way out front. So it's going to be another year of celebrating other people beating out the bracket.
I can relate to that. My bracket got busted when Kentucky went down. So I didn't have
a lot of people
had them in the Final Four, and I was in last place in the pool that I was in. I've moved up to like 40th, right? So I'm still I'm close.
The great story is that St. Peter's actually did make it to the Sweet 16. I always like it when they knock off a top seed, but then a lot of times they lose in the next round.
Right,
it's neat to see a team that just looks like they belong, like they were just misseeded. Like the committee didn't know. But it's neat to see St. Peter's, the Peacocks, going to the Sweet 16, which is exciting. So, all right. So let's talk about you a little bit. Do a quick introduction about yourself. Let everybody know a little bit about your career, just a little bit, what you've done and what you're doing now.
Sounds good. So, as scary as it sounds, this is my 35th year in the industry, and I
You're
started.
not old enough for that. No, you must have started when you were 15 or something.
I was 12. Actually, I did start when I was 16 part-time. I always tell people I got into the industry the old-fashioned way. I married the boss's daughter. So
Well done.
that's
Done.
how that went. I started working part-time at a trucking company in straight up asset-based operation, and I ended up started dating the boss's daughter and ended up marrying her. So we're still married 35 years later. So
Congrats.
I definitely outpunted my coverage. So so I did that I worked for a company called KJ Transportation for first part of my career, and then in 2000, myself, my wife, one of my brother-in-laws, and my in-laws started a company called Leonard's Express. And we grew that company. My two other brother-in-laws came aboard shortly thereafter that we started it up. And we took the company from approximately zero revenue in 2001, or we started with zero, to when I left at the end of December, we were around 330 million in revenue. It was an asset-based operation. It had an asset or hybrid operation. It had an asset division operating around 650 trucks, around 1,000 trailers, predominantly grocery, refrigerated. And then we had a sizable, about equal size brokerage operation. For the first part of my career there, I was in charge of sales and sales development and business development, and managed the sales team and VP of national accounts. And then I moved over, we brought someone up and I moved over, and I handled the marketing for the last 4 to 5 years. So along that time period, in December, I went to my brother-in-laws and told my brother-in-laws, I love you, but it's time to do something a little bit different. And I left on good terms, and I decided to start my own consulting company. And over the years, as you mentioned, I'm involved in the TIA. Currently, they've allowed me to be chairman at this point in time. I've got a year left on that term. And over the past 16 to 17 years being involved in that association, I began to realize how lucky I was to have the family, right? It wasn't always kumbaya, rainbow and sunshines, right? But we always got along. We always knew we were rowing in the same direction. You had other people you could lean on. And I saw really a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs who didn't have other people that they could lean on. They didn't have other family members. It was just themselves. And so I decided to start More Than Miles to get involved and help some smaller 3PLs possibly grow their business, whether it be sales development, organizational structure, something along those lines, based on my experience over the years of helping the company grow from zero. On our brokerage side, we were around 170 million when I left. And so that, I'm still allowed to come to Thanksgiving dinner with my family. And so I get to talk to you and meet some cool people and see some interesting things along the way.
Very cool. And your experience definitely speaks for itself, being in the industry for a long time and being as successful as you've been. And I'm sure there are many, especially freight brokerages and asset-based companies, who will benefit from your services moving forward. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And then, of course, being chairman of the board of the TIA, we've got an upcoming conference in just 2 weeks. Really excited about that, April 6th through 9th. So it's going to be here before we know it. I think I'm heading out 2 weeks from tomorrow to head out to beautiful San Diego. What are you looking forward to with the TIA conference, and what do you love about that organization?
Well, a lot of things, right? First of all, it's been 3 years since we've gotten together live. And, Trey, it's going to sound corny, but for me, it's about connection. And you'll hear that in my speech. It's about networking and being with people. I have a lot of really close friends that I've developed, and friendships that I've developed over the years. Some mentors, people who have helped me along the way and helped our organization and our company along the way. And I think the really cool thing about the association is, not only is it about the education and the advocacy, but it's really about getting together with people and people collaborating, and not doing anything, illegal, and not breaking, any laws, but just collaborating and helping each other out. I'm one of those people that are, rising tide raises all ships. And there are a lot of people there that I've gotten to know that have really assisted me personally, and assisted when I was with Leonard's Express. So, I just think just getting together live swapping stories and having a few chuckles. So it's really exciting. And Renke, that you've had on your show before, she's really done a great job. Her and her staff are really working hard to knock it out of the park. And the last I knew, there was a little over 1,000 people coming. I think we're closer to 1,100 people. And I just think people are excited about, going somewhere. If you're like me in upstate New York, you want to go somewhere warm and sunny.
No doubt about that.
Really see some people you haven't seen some while and get to do it live, in person, versus Zoom. This is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just going to be great to get together with people.
Yeah, you can't replace, being in person, shaking hands, having a shared experience, whether that's, one of the after parties or sitting down at lunch and talking shop and meeting new people and and talking about the challenges, also the victories, giving out some awards. I mean, there's just so much to look forward to, and it's going to be great to be together. And by the way, Ann was on the show Friday on Word on the Street, and she said that they were at 1,200 registrants.
There you go. See what I haven't talked to her. She's off for a couple of days, so I just think it just speaks to people. We've all been cooped up, even though things have kind of relaxed, obviously, and gotten easier in the last 5-6 months. But I just think people are excited about it. There's a lot of quality. There's a lot of good quality content. That's there. There's good speakers. I always take away something from the show and try to figure out how I can use it, whether it be personally for professional development or when I was with Leonard's for our company, we would sit down and we would walk through, okay, maybe somebody was talking about something about, carrier onboarding, or they were talking about, contracts, or they were talking about, compensation, for talent and, some of the different, variables and different ways to do that. And we would take that, filter out what would work for our organization, both culturally and organizationally, and try to implement that to where it made sense. And there was some stuff that didn't make sense. So like, all right, that works for, Susie Q or John Doe, but it doesn't work for us. And so we won't use that. But there's other stuff that we'd always get a nugget here or there. We've always found value in doing that. Obviously I'm a little biased, but being the chairman, but a lot of good friends there, and a lot of good talent, a lot of good content.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And we think about whatever industry that whoever's watching happens to be in. There's associations and trade organizations, just about every industry that's out there. There's a ton of value in growing your business through the benefit of networking, whether that's finding new clients, whether that's talking about best practices, learning from people who are a little bit further ahead of you. I mean, if I'm a new freight broker, for example, man, the TIA is where I'd want to be, because there's so many people there like yourself with years, decades of experience. And that's true in any industry. And I think when you think about growing your company, and you think about leadership and those types of things, networking has to be a huge part of that. Mentorship and leadership and networking and marketing. I mean, when you're talking about your company, learning about other people, what they're doing, all of that goes hand in hand in growing your company. How do you see networking in terms of growing your company and getting better and moving forward?
Well, I think it's critical, right? I think that, everybody, and one of the really interesting things since I've been doing this consulting gig, and it's only been several months, is you would talk to people and you would hear about how they did certain things, or people would share. They wouldn't share their secret sauce, right? And nor would you want them to, nor should they. But they would give you, their what's worked for them and what's not worked for them. But what's really been cool being on the consulting side is to really see it in action, and that to recognize that we all do the same thing, right? We all move freight from point A to point B, but we all do it in a different and somewhat unique and individualistic way. And I think that's really pretty cool. And but to go back to your question, if it wasn't for networking, it's funny how I'm a believer in things happen for a reason, right? I don't believe in serendipity. I think that things happen for a reason, and along the way I can pinpoint certain people that helped me, sometimes not even recognizing it or realizing it, and or gave us a nugget of information, whether it be me or my wife. My wife was the chief financial officer of the company for a long period of time, for the first 15 out of the 20 years. And we would always take something and use that to make our company more efficient or more effective or more profitable. So I think that sometimes people don't like the network. Sometimes people are uncomfortable. But I think if you're genuine, if you're authentic, and you're not a pest, right? There's a balance, right? It's like trying to find stuff, business development, trying to find new business, for your company. You've got to find that right fit and that balance with the individual or the company you're talking to. But it's key because you only know what you know, right? You only know what you're dealing with, and sometimes you come in with a plan and the phone rings or an email comes through and it blows your whole day up, right? And the day turns into a week turns into a month turns into a year. Next thing you know, you're at a certain revenue level or a certain margin level, and it's like, how did I get here, right? And it's so hard sometimes to get out of that day to day. And when you talk and network to other people and hear about maybe unique or different ways to work on a problem that you're having, because we all have the same problems, we all have the same challenges. We might solve them differently. And so if I can learn from someone else who's already gone through it or found a way that worked for them, and I can implement either that process or a portion of that process into my system, why wouldn't I? It just makes you better. And then if you get the advice or you network with somebody and there isn't anything there of value, that doesn't mean you still can't be friends. You just don't use it for your business. And if we've learned anything the last couple of years, the importance of relationships, the importance of connection, right? It's technology is great. We need technology. We need to find the right balance. When you're out and about trying to build your business, but you've got to have that connection with people, and it's just so important.
No doubt about it. And like you said, you don't know what you don't know. It's good to have other people that you can ask questions to or kind of, rub shoulders with. My dad used to say, there's two ways to learn, and one is less painful. And he'd always tell me that I can learn from someone else's mistakes, or I can learn from my own. And so if you can get together with people and hear what worked for them or what didn't work for them or what they tried and just keep learning and growing, I think that's one benefit. The other benefit is this, when you think about it, people always want to do business with people that they like. I think about this all the time. A vendor-client relationship is kind of like a dating or a marriage relationship. When somebody starts to work with you, you're kind of stuck with them. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're gonna be working together now, moving forward. They're gonna be you're sending invoices. They're paying you. They have problems. You're solving them. You're working together on things. And people want to be around people that they genuinely like. And so there's so many benefits to networking, to rubbing shoulders, to meeting people. You never know if they're going to move to another position. Oh, they really like, I remember this guy, Mike Riccio. I really like that guy. I'm going to call him. Maybe he can help us out. Those types of things are really, really critical. So it's neat to be a part of an organization like TIA where networking is such a big part of that. So huge shout out to my friend Beth Horton here in St. Louis. Beth was in the youth group back when I was a youth pastor. Really great person. So thanks for watching the show. Yeah, and she's super sharp. So she said, I couldn't agree more. Networking is so key in the business world. Man, it's like if you can go play golf with people for 4 hours and talk about business or talk about life and connect with them and learn about their family, learn about their story, learn about their struggles, man, it just makes all the difference in the world when you do have a solution that could actually help them out. So,
well, like you said, you never know. Also, like you said earlier, you connect with somebody, they might leave that company, go somewhere else, and you just never know where that individual is going to surface again.
That's right.
And I learned very early in my career not to burn bridges. I burned a bridge, and it came back to haunt me early in my career, and it was a hard lesson to learn. And you just never know where people are going to end up. And if you do it in an authentic and genuine manner, and there's a connection there, if that person moves on, you just that down the road that they may be doing something that's going to work for you.
Yeah, it's so true. And one principle I live by is to try to never miss a meeting. Like if somebody wants to meet, never turn that down, because you just don't know where that's going to go or what you're going to learn, whether it's personally or professionally. Like you said, you might make a connection and that person goes somewhere, and it just provides an opportunity that you weren't even planning for. So for me, networking has radically changed my career. It's changed the trajectory of my career.
Yeah.
The people that I've been able to meet and talk to and learn from has accelerated growth in a way that just wouldn't have happened without the networking, without meeting people and spending time with them. So it's really, really critical. Well, that's a long kind of paragraph we just shared there about TIA. It's coming up, and very excited about that. We got about 8-9 minutes left, so I want to get to a little bit of the meat. And obviously, we're going to have you back on the show because it's just going way too quick. But one of the things that you specialize in that you're really good at is leadership, and particularly sales leadership. And so, for anybody on the who's watching the show today who's a sales leader, I want you to talk about some of the common mistakes that you see sales leaders make, but also some of just your best advice for sales leaders, whether they're new or seasoned or whatever. I'm going to put you on the spot for just a little bit and have you talk about what you've seen, what you've experienced, and how you help people in terms of developing as a sales leader and building a sales organization. So let's start with that first question of what are some of the biggest kind of missteps that you see sales leaders making with their teams?
I think they don't listen. Salespeople naturally, and I have two weaknesses that I need to consistently work on. One is I'm not the best listener of the world. I like to talk. As we talked, we just did that diatribe on the TIA that took up the majority of the show. So I know that's an area that I need to work on, and attention to detail is an area for me personally that I need to work on. But I think a lot of sales leaders and a lot of salespeople in general don't listen to what the client or the potential customer is telling them. You go in typically in before Zoom and before pre-COVID, you get together face to face majority, and you give them a brochure. And I remember once taking all the marketing material away from our sales team, and man, it was like taking a pacifier away from the baby. and my point to the team was, we want you to listen. We want you to go in and ask questions. We don't want you to go in and say, hey, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. We're the greatest things since sliced bread. Well, maybe the first 6 things they don't even care about.
Right, not a problem, or they don't. Yeah, it doesn't affect them.
Right? They got a problem with this, and you need to figure out a way to find that solution. So I think to answer you directly, Trey, one of the biggest mistakes a salesperson who's naturally gregarious, he or she is naturally, excited. They get their energy out of meeting people, right? That's why they do. Why they're doing what they're doing. Some of it is financially driven, but a lot of it is that, hey, I get a rise and a jazz out of, meeting someone new and learning something from someone new and trying to help solve that problem that person may have. So they don't stop and listen. So I know that's simple. It's not really rocket science what we do, right? It really isn't, but you've got to stop, you've got to listen, you've got to pay attention, you got to see if you can find a solution, and then if you don't have a solution, you need to be honest. You need
That's right.
I
can't help you. Yeah.
You need to be, because people appreciate that, right? Yep. People smell phony a mile away. They know it.
So true. So true. And Greg Roberts, real quick, just said you got 2 years and 1 month. I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's a common thing. When you're in sales, you feel like you need to be a great presenter. You need to speak well. You need to be able to communicate. But there's a whole other side of communication that we often don't emphasize, and that is listening. And I loved what you said, asking questions. I just talked to Dan Hamilton about this on an episode 2 weeks ago, and he's an incredible presenter. And we both agreed to the same thing. Like, the first thing you should do on a presentation is ask questions, not say anything, because you don't even know what the problem is. You don't even know necessarily what their situation is. How can you possibly identify that and pitch them on something if you have no idea what the problem is? Asking those questions at the beginning is so critical to a productive sales call and a productive, in my opinion, sales career.
Yeah. It's just critical. I mean, you go in and listen. I think also there's a balance of data and interpersonal skills, right? I mean, you certainly today, with technology today, a lot of sales calls are being done the way we're having this conversation. It is not face-to-face. There's a pro and a con to that, right? That sword cuts both ways. The pro is it's easier to have the conversation. It's easier to schedule. It's less expensive typically. The con is you can't read somebody's body language.
Not quite as well. That's right. Yeah.
Right? It's harder to connect. And so you need, I think, from a sales perspective today, you need to be able to provide the data to that person to show that you've got the solution, but somehow you've also got to find that balance of connection, right? And I think it's important to have, Mr. Bain, the strongest man in logistics, is listening.
He's joining us. That's right. That's right. He's back from his birthday week, and he woke up this morning.
He just said that, Trey, because he's expecting us to buy him an adult beverage at the TIA. So,
well, he is. That's absolutely true. He has a good time.
I do have an arm wrestling contest with him, though, so I gotta get
arm wrestling. I could use my whole body, and I wouldn't even come close.
But to go back, it's like how do you you also want to have a digital presence. But you have to have that balance of, possibly something with some social cause, but again, it has to be authentic, right? Because everybody wants to be part of something that is socially responsible today. But it has to be, I know I'm repetitive, but it does have to be genuine.
Yeah. And I was thinking about, what you said too about listening, and, you said that leaders also don't listen. I think one of this is the reasons why I think that a lot of organizations struggle with identifying a good sales leader from the sales team, because a lot of times what they do is they take their top performer and they throw them into leadership. But what makes somebody a top performer sometimes is it's not the same skill set as what makes somebody a really good leader. But this is one of those skills that I would encourage companies to look for. If you have a salesperson who's really good at listening, who's really good at asking questions, who has that empathy factor, and still has the ability to lead well, to sell, to handle those sales conversations, that's somebody who I would identify as a potential to become a sales leader. And sometimes it's not your top producer, maybe it might be your third best producer, but that person has more of the skills that are necessary to become a sales leader, because in leadership, especially, you need to be able to listen, to ask questions and listen to your team and get the feedback in order to lead them best. It's like a basketball coach who never asks questions or never listens to the team. Like I think of Coach K, who's in his last year in March Madness, the Duke basketball coach. He definitely talks to his players, but you can tell that he listens. He asks questions and he gets feedback and he listens, and then they solve the problem together. That's how sales leadership should be, in my opinion. Listening has got to be one of the top skills to look for when you're trying to identify maybe a producer that could become a sales leader. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like you said, a lot of times you take a high performer and you take he or she and you make them a leader, and they don't have the same skill set that made them a high performer. And then to add fuel to the fire, a lot of times companies don't give that person the proper training. They just say, okay, just do it. And they don't give them the right training.
It's so true.
And you gotta not only do you have to be a good listener, you gotta be able to you gotta be able to have critical conversations. You gotta have people skills. Dealing with the people problems is the biggest challenge that any leader has, I think. It's because there's always problems, and it's how do you go from now you got to be more of a generalist, right? You got to think more strategically. Before you were just in the zone, whatever your process was to from business development to bring in new business. You've got to be thinking differently. You've got to be dealing with people differently, and those skills take time, and they take training, and they take experience, and sometimes with the experience of hard knocks of like, well, I didn't do that right. If someone doesn't perform, you've got to bring them in and sit them down and okay, help me understand why you made that decision. And maybe when they walk you through the steps, you're like, oh, okay, if we did this differently and this differently, we might have got a different outcome. How about we do that next time? Versus just bringing them in and ripping somebody,
Right. Well, not only that, but in leadership, especially sales leadership, your priorities have to change. When you're a producer, your priority is obviously producing and generating revenue, closing deals, and filling your pipeline, all those skill sets that go into being a great sales producer. When you're a sales leader, though, it's not about you producing. It's now about helping everyone else produce. It's about teaching the skills and holding people accountable and having critical conversations and diagnosing a problem, asking questions and answering them. There's a transition that has to take place. And I love what you said, that a lot of companies don't have a plan. They're not intentional about training their people. I think that leadership, no matter whether it's sales or in any aspect of a business, you have to have a plan for how you're going to identify potential leaders, how you're going to invite them into leadership, how you're going to train them to become a leader, and how you're going to promote them into leadership, and then how you're going to evaluate or continuing education, because it's a process, and just taking your top producer and throwing them in leadership sometimes is a really bad idea. And a lot of companies don't have that intentionality. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because it seems to happen a lot.
It does happen a lot. And I think your comment about empathy is really a really key one. And people think of empathy as being soft. That's not the case.
No.
You can be empathetic and you can be firm. You can be empathetic and you can have a firm position on something and lay it out for that individual what your expectations are. But I do think you need to be empathetic and understand the dynamic of what's going on both in the office and outside of the office, and make sure that, okay, does this person have the right set of tools? If we given this person the right set of tools, if we given this person the right set of training, if we put this person in the right environment, is this person really doing what we've been asking them to do? And if they are, and it's just not working out, you can work through those things. If there's a cultural fit, you can work through those things.
That's right.
If not, I think a lot of times people don't perform because of the leaders, not necessarily because they weren't good performers. The first thing we would do when we would lose someone is we would look ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, what did we do? What could we have done? Was it us? And maybe sometimes it wasn't. Maybe it just wasn't. But sometimes it was.
Yeah. No, it's critical to be able to have empathy or to be able to understand someone else's position, and also just to be humble and to honestly evaluate your position. Those are all great skills of leadership. One of my favorite books on leadership, and we're going to end with this because our time is up. It went so fast, Mike. We're going to have you back on. One of my favorite books, though, is called The Leadership Pipeline. It's a really good book, and it talks about moving to those different levels of leadership, of being like a leader of yourself and producing, and then moving forward to leading other people, then leading teams, leading organizations on the different levels. It's a fabulous book, Leadership Pipeline. I would encourage people to read that after thinking about growing in leadership. And Mike, that's going to do it for us, man. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's glad to be on, and I appreciate it. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
For those who are watching, if you've not connected with Mike Riccio, you need to connect with him, follow his content, tons of wisdom, just a good guy. I'm so thankful that I get a chance to call you every month and, just talk shop and bend your ear a little bit and get some advice. So I really appreciate that. So again, thanks for coming on. We'll have you on another time. And this week, again, if everybody's watching, make sure you come back tomorrow. We've got a really great guest. Kevin Coombs from Green Screens is going to be here. He's going to talk a lot about his journey from being a producer into being a sales leader and what that looks like. So it's going to be a great conversation, talk about that. And then make sure you're back every day, 10:30 a.m. for Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales and marketing. Everybody have a great Monday out there. We'll see you tomorrow.